Bill, welcome to the program. And this game is worth 4 years' worth, which is pretty crazy when you think about it.
Yeah. To be very fair, I hate the fact that it's not going to be played. It's only going to be played once in 4 years because I love this game. And so, but I understand why they're doing it. The home and home with Florida was a huge deal. So that's it. But yeah, this is one of those things where, BYU's talked for a few years about trying to end the streak, and Utah likes to extend the streak, and the streak will kind of remain intact if Utah wins for a couple of more years. So it's a shame in some ways we didn't get a chance to see the game last year. But I'm just happy it's back this year.
What's the mood of the fan base, Bill, right now when they talk Utah football? How excited are they? How much excitement has grown because of last year and only having a couple of games to play? What's the mood with the fan base right now heading into this season?
Well, I think there's a lot of excitement, Shep. I do. I've likened it a lot to the 2018 season, where we knew Utah was going to be pretty good, but we weren't quite sure how good. Tyler Huntley hadn't really become Tyler Huntley. Zach Moss was good, but he wasn't being talked about nationally yet. There's a lot of talent in this program. As you guys know, Kyle's recruited so very well, 19 returning starters, and then they've used the transfer portal really, really well to fill in some of the gaps. So I would say, Shep, it could mean something or it could mean nothing.
And as somebody, as somebody who produced your show for 5 years, I have heard that many, many times, and it rings true every single time.
Oh, but I think it's going to be a fun year this year. The Pac-12 South is really tight. SC's always good. ASU's got a lot of hype around them. Herm's come in and created some hype. Now there's some hype that's not so good down there. And what I've always said is Utah's the kind of the consistent. You know what you're going to get just about every year. Some years SC is really good. Some years they're not. ASU gets a lot of hype. But to me, the consistent team is Utah. And then in the North, it's probably Oregon and Washington and everybody else. But I would say there's a lot of enthusiasm and excitement around the program this year. And a lot of it has to do just simply with the fact that they have a lot of talent returning from last year's shortened season.
Yeah, it's interesting because BYU is going to play 4 of the 6 in the South plus Washington State. So BYU fans paying attention to the Pac-12 South race as well because of that. So obviously quarterback's a big deal. A lot of returning starters. Obviously the tragic and terrible death of Ty Jordan is a storyline that will emanate throughout the season as well. But at quarterback, Charlie Brewer, if you get the 2018 Charlie Brewer, you're talking about some big-time things. If you get the 2019 or 20 Charlie Brewer, maybe it's different. So we'll see. Cam Rising coming back from injury, competing there, and some others. So who is it, Charlie Brewer versus the field, or is Cam Rising going to challenge for that spot?
Well, if Cam Rising's healthy, and I don't know yet because I haven't seen any medicals on him, but if he's healthy, I think he challenges. He won the job a year ago. He's a really talented quarterback. The one thing that he doesn't have that Charlie Brewer has is 4 years of starting experience at the Power 5 level. And to your point, Jarom, last year, Charlie Brewer went through a coaching change, a new offensive system, a little less talent at Baylor. If you get the Charlie Brewer of 18-19 or 17-18-19 when he was Big 12 Freshman of the Year, I think you've got a really good quarterback. I think Utah's in good shape quarterback-wise. Whoever wins the job, the backup's going to be really, really talented. But I would tell you right now, if I was putting money on one of them, I'd probably lean toward Brewer because we know he's healthy. And we know he's got 4 years of experience, but I'm not going to count out Cam Rising just yet.
Bill, one of the things that you can almost just pencil it in, regardless of the season, regardless of the situation, when you think of Utah football, there are certain things that are just going to be the way it is. They're always going to be able to run the football really, really well, going to have a very good offensive line, and they're going to be dominant on the defensive front. Any reason to believe that's not going to be the case again this season?
No, the lines are going to be really good, Shep. They are. Last year was a little bit of a transition year, getting some guys experience, but Jim Harding's got 10 guys who could start for me. He believes it's the deepest, and Kyle Whittingham does too, the deepest offensive line unit they've ever had. They're going to be really good up there, and then the defensive line is just silly. The word I heard a couple of times late spring and early summer is the line is back to being nasty again, and that's where they were a couple of years ago. And everybody's excited around here because for the first time in a number of years, there's a Kaufusi on the roster. Devin's going to be here playing for Utah, and he's going to hold down one of those 2 starting inside tackle spots, probably alongside of, one of the Putu Towels or maybe Vianney Moala. The defensive end spots are really good as well. And we just saw the highlight of Devin Lloyd, who might be the best linebacker that Utah's ever had. Ever had.
That's saying something.
He's probably a day 2 draftee, and he checks all the boxes. And then right next to him is the Sewell that nobody talks about, Nephi Sewell, who quietly had a really good year last year, transitioning from safety to linebacker. So the defense is going to be, in the words of a coach I talked to in the spring, nasty again this year.
Let's talk about defectors. You have Samson Nacua transferring down to be with Puka, right, at receiver, and then, of course, Devin. So bigger impact on the game from those two, Samson and Devin, who have switched sides in this.
That's a really good question, Jarom, because I think Devin we saw glimpses of last year, and I know he's really worked hard on his game. Your partner guys, Spencer Linton, who was on my radio show last week, I told him, I said, I think Samson Nacua is going to have a bigger impact on BYU's offense this year than Puka Nacua is. I know Puka got a lot of hype out of high school. He didn't do much in 2 years up at the University of Washington. And I talked to some people up there that said they feel like he didn't really give what he could have. And Samson's a kid that's coming to BYU to play with his brother. He's coming down there to have an impact this year. I think he has a really big year in that offense. He's a really good kid who's got a lot of upside to him. So that's kind of my BYU wide receiver hot take is I think Samson might have a bigger year than Puka does down there for Aaron Roderick.
Let's stay with Samson. For those that may not have been able to see him during his career at Utah, what does he bring to the field?
Well, he brings a goofiness that there's that every team probably needs to have. He's a clown, but he's a great kid. I'll tell you what he's really, really good at. He's not a speedster. He's maybe not the most athletic guy. I don't know that Utah had a better guy of going and finding and getting the ball when it was in the air than he did. There were some catches that he made, one in particular along the sideline a couple of years ago up at UW that set them up in a goal-to-go situation. He is excellent at adjusting and making plays on the ball in the air. So if you throw it up to him, there's a really good chance he's going to come down with it.
I want to say there was a game at Colorado where he had a couple of touchdown catches in the snow that were just ridiculous. So yeah, he's got great ball skills.
It was a one-hander against Colorado in the snow. You're right, Jarom.
Yeah, just crazy catch. Okay, at running back, obviously some big-time program names coming in. TJ Pledger comes in as the number 2 from Oklahoma, and of course Chris Curry from LSU. Micah Bernard's the incumbent. Who do you see being kind of the main guy toting the rock?
It's a little bit like last year. We came into the season last year saying, well, there's no Zach Moss. They'll do it by committee. And then this young man out of Texas, Ty Jordan, just emerged after a game and a half. I talked to Kyle McDonald, the running backs coach, last week, and he said, hey, if we got to go by committee, we'll go by committee. If I had to guess one guy to emerge, though, I like Pledger, young man from Oklahoma. He just got caught up in a numbers game. When he played last year, he had great numbers. He ran for 450 yards, almost 6 yards a carry. A couple of touchdowns and 130 yards in the Red River Shootout against Texas. He just got caught up in a numbers game, and he kind of fits that profile. He's good in pass pro. He catches the ball out of the backfield. He's got good burst, pretty good toughness, not real big. He's kind of built – he's somewhere in that kind of that between John White and Zach Moss from a size standpoint. But if I had to pick one of those guys to emerge, it would probably be TJ Pledger. But I think all 3 or 4 of those guys can really run it.
Bill, it's been a while since Britton Covey's been fully healthy. Is he entering his 11th season on the Hill fully healthy this year?
Well, he got his AARP card this summer,
Very
so
nice.
he was happy about that. A lot of senior discounts at Chuck-A-Rama, so he's really
he's having
pleased
dinner at 4. He's eating at 4.
Yeah. And in fact, he bought a retirement place at Del Boca Vista Phase 3 this summer too.
Nice. Very nice.
But he has had. It's funny you say that, Chip, because he is healthy. He said, I really haven't felt completely healthy since coming back from my mission. And before that first season back, when he was absolutely nearly killed by Washington in that regular season game, he said he feels great, ready to be a leader. They've got some options at wide receiver, but I think you're going to see a little bit more Britton Covey than just kind of the short underneath routes. I think they're going to use him in a lot of different ways this year down the field as a wide receiver and not just around the line of scrimmage.
Is Brant Keithy, who's one of the best tight ends in the country, is he the number 1 offensive weapon for Utah?
I would say so, Jarom. Just based on production and the way Andy Ludwig likes to use him, he's kind of a collegiate version of a Travis Kelce or a George Kittle, where he's just kind of a matchup problem for linebackers or safeties or corners, depending on who you put on him. Just a really, really good athlete. But here's the thing. They've got 3 guys who would start for probably just about anybody in the Pac-12. Cole Fotheringham behind him, and then Dalton Schultz, who was a University of San Diego transfer. They like all 3 of those guys. So I think Andy Ludwig, who loves using tight ends, is going to get real creative this year. But as far as proven commodities and the way Andy likes to use his offense, I'd say Keithy's probably the number 1 option.
Is it Pac-12 South title or bust? Is anything less than that going to be disappointing to the Utes?
I think so, because I picked them on my ballot to win the Pac-12 South this year. There's not a lot of weakness on this team. I will say this, they don't have a proven punter for maybe the first time in a decade. So, so there's not an Aussie guy that's a proven guy like a Hackett or a Wisnowski or a Sakota before that. But if you look at every other position group, even place kicker, they're 2 deep or 3 deep or 4 deep. So, yeah, I think, Jason, I think they're at a point now where if you don't win the Pac-12, it's not just good enough to get there. You win the Pac-12 South. You're a favorite. Your program's in a good spot. Sure. So I would say yes. I think Kyle Whittingham's got the program to a point now where winning the Pac-12 South's an expectation, and now they've got to go win the conference.
Bill, let's finish with this. What are your thoughts on BYU going into 2021?
I think that Kalani has done a wonderful job. I think 6 years in, he's got the program stabilized. I think that, they're playing, again, a ridiculous schedule. Would have been great to see them play it a year ago with all that NFL talent they had. But I don't think that they're a point now where, a couple of years ago, they would stumble against an Akron or a Toledo or somebody like that. They'd knock off a USC and then stub their toe against Arkansas State, whatever that might happen to be. I don't think they do that anymore. I think they're at a point now, and I think the culture of what's expected is ingrained in that program. So I think they're going to be good. How good, I don't know. I think their range is probably 5-7 to 8-4. On the air the other day, I was doing picks for all the in-state teams. I said they would be 7-5. I think they knock off a couple of Power 5 teams. I think they stumble somewhere against some others, but I think 7-5 is really realistic with maybe an 8-4 season mixed in there too. Am I wrong on that? Am I off on that? I know Ben Criddle loses his mind when you do anything but pick somebody to go 12-0. So he texted me right away. But what do you guys think? 7-5, 8-4?
We think 12-0. No, we think 7 or 8.
7 or 8 right there that's kind of the sweet spot. Anything above that, then it's a pretty special year.
Yeah.
I think so too, because that schedule, that's tough, man.
Yeah.
And even some of the group of 5 teams they play are not going to be necessarily cakewalks. Obviously, Boise's in there as well. But I'm really interested to see how they play in that Virginia game, because I don't think Bronco, based on what I've read, has a very good Virginia team this year. I think they're going to be down a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see him come back to Lavelle Edwards and coach against Kalani.
Yeah, 7 Power 5s in Boise State. This would be a great simulation of if BYU was in a Power 5 league, kind of what that would feel like. So, Bill, we appreciate the time, man. Always good to catch up.
Hey, I will see you guys September the 11th, if not beforehand.
Okay, Sounds good. Kudos, Bill.
Kudos, yep.
Thank you.